What will you do to protect LGBTQ rights, or really the rights of people in general? But this specific question was for that specific group. But your thoughts on that? What you'll do to protect the people of North Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, I think my track record as an activist says that I'm going to protect everybody's rights, period. And when I look at that, that's something that the LP has, we were in 2008, we were the only mainstream party in the United States that was okay with gay marriage. Obama was elected his first term opposing gay marriage. Here's the reality, and I wish my solution would happen. How about we get the government out of the marriage business entirely? Why do two consenting adults who want to spend their life together need the government permission? They're perfectly capable of having a relationship with just themselves, their pastor and God, with whatever. Get the government out of it entirely, and then there's no ability for a radical, group that may have control over the state to try to go back there. Because I know there's some hits there in North Carolina where they're talking about, going against and banning gay marriage in North Carolina. As governor, I wouldn't allow that. But again, I'd much rather see we completely get the government out of this process. It's something that the government never should have been involved in the first place, in my opinion. But I would absolutely say, any two consenting adults who want to get married in the state of North Carolina will have no pushback from me.
Well said. Shannon, what will you do to protect the rights of the people of North Carolina as governor?
That wasn't the question.
Oh, you're right. The question was specifically, what will you do to protect LGBTQ rights? That was the question.
Yes, I believe that the LGB community should have the same exact rights as everyone else. They should be able to vote. They should be able to do everything they need on a daily basis. And no more, no less. Adding the TQIAs to the mix, I don't believe that there is any right whatsoever to play sports at the high school level. So I feel like that question is asking what side of the line would I be on there, and I would not allow a male to get on a sporting field, a biological male to get on a sporting field with a girl and compete against her and possibly hurt her. Because we've seen the damage in MMA, we've seen it in soccer, we've seen it in all sorts of sports, right? Now it's Riley Gaines and swimming, and the reason why this is kind of, people often say, well, this is how they feel, and if I don't allow them to do that, then I'm a bigot. When I totally disagree with that. I should never have to tell a grown man that he shouldn't have to play, that he has more physical strength than the women that he's competing against. Like that swimmer who, took the dreams of those women that had studied that had pursued swimming their entire lives. He shows up in a second, steals I use that word, steals their accomplishments, and I'm against that because, as you know, I'm against people who hurt other people and people who take things that don't belong to them. I feel like that fits into that bucket. I don't feel that anyone's feelings should come into law. We've never done that, ever. Right? We don't have a constitution that just says, depending on how you feel, the Second Amendment may or may not apply to you. They're trying to do that, right, with red flag laws and things like that. But it all comes down to, we have a system of facts, right? You can't just come in and say, hey, I'm going to mix everything up, and then everyone just has to accept it. That's not where I'm at with that. If someone wants to do whatever they want to do, they're more than welcome to do it. But I don't believe special privileges should ever be warranted. I do not believe that there are more than two sexes. And anything that says that other than that is just wrong. I mean, it's an uneducated statement, and it just doesn't make any sense. So I just wanted to be clear on that particular question, on what I thought it meant.
I understand. Yeah, it's a culture war issue that a lot of people feel very passionately about. There's no one viewpoint within the Libertarian Party, as far as I know. But again, Shannon brought up issues that I didn't bring up to you. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that additional information?
Yeah, I mean, I make it an intentional case to stay out of the culture war. And one of the reasons for that is one, I think it's the duopoly or uniparty's greatest tool, right? If you're able to get something that people are emotionally charged about and divide them over it, you're now creating an enemy in your neighbor as opposed to the true enemy, which is the uniparty that's oppressing all of us from the start. When it comes to those issues, I've leaned on this statement a lot, Shannon, in this debate. Banning things doesn't work. Now, if you're looking to see a change there, because I'll be honest, I've watched a trans woman MMA fighter destroy the face of a biological woman, and watching it was hard to watch. And I look at that and I say, that shouldn't happen. But do you know how that shouldn't happen? We shouldn't need the government to tell us that shouldn't happen. That organization, the UFC, or whatever private organization is running these events in sports, it's their call. And if they are in a community where that community is so outraged that they don't want to support that sport, that's the free market at work. But if they're in a community where they know that everyone's watching the sport only wants to see biological women or biological men competing there, they set the rule. They don't need the government to do that. The free market can solve these issues, and I think the free market should be the one who's truly battling the culture war, not the government. I don't want the government tipping the scales of the economy. I don't want them tipping the scales of the culture war. I don't want them tipping the scales of anything else. Let the associations that run the sports make those decisions. If they make a bad decision and their communities and customer bases are upset, great. That's the free market working, and that would be my solution.
Your governor.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have state resources that apply to you, right? What are you? You're just going to do what?
I mean,
so when you have schools of children, right, and you have a trans athlete who wants to compete against women, how is that beneficial to anyone?
Yeah, well, I mean, since we're going to break format here, and we haven't hit on education, I think that my education plan actually covers that answer, right? Because your education plan puts forward a bunch of things that you want to see the government do, right? Where I saw your tweet where you called for smaller classroom sizes and things like that. If you were to look at my education plan, which is not Republican light, because I mean, I get you like school choice, but the North Carolina GOP is pushing school choice. I see that as a real threat to the future of education in North Carolina, because all you're doing is setting up a future government takeover of private education. If you went with my education plan, which is to equitably distribute that and give the parents full control, if their local school was doing something like that they didn't like, they'd pull their kid from the school, the free market would be working, and guess what? If they did that too much and pissed off enough parents, that school would stop existing. Free market, solving that problem, no input for governor needed, other than breaking the monopoly on education, which is something that I hope, whichever one of us wins, that's a message we can hammer to whoever's there. Because if we don't break that monopoly on education, you're only setting up future generations to continue to be propagandized and shifted in the way that the government wants them to be. Right now, it might be these culture war issues. In the future, it's something else. But we need to put control of the education of North Carolina back into the hands of parents, and not in a way that sets up the future takeover of private and homeschool education.
Education is an issue that a lot of libertarians, a lot of North Carolinians are very, very concerned about. And as a governor of North Carolina, it is in the state constitution that some kind of education has to be provided. So you talked a little bit about your plan for education. Shannon, why don't you share the viewers with your thoughts on education? What's the proper role for education in North Carolina, and what will you as the governor do to help provide that, or not get in the way of people finding the right option that's best for them?
Yeah, so our education is outlined in our state constitution, Title IX, where it lays out the school boards and all of that. I've looked at that several times, and to be honest with you, I'll give Mike credit. We were kind of talking a few weeks ago about school choice and education. We actually talk about quite a lot of things, and I was looking at trying to find a way to get legislation to maybe abolish Title IX. Mike thought that we could still maybe get school choice to fit inside there, inside that particular one. As he said, just to kind of go with his response, I do have more of a Republican-like view on education, and that's primarily because a lot of my views are libertarian, and some of them are extreme libertarian. But I also feel like I need to get people closer to libertarian without feeling like they are just letting go of the wheel. Education is one of those things. So I would like to have parents have the ability to use the vouchers or school choice and make sure that their students or their children can go to the education systems that they want. That also does address, the LGBTQIA issues. If there's schools that you can choice yourself into or out of, but you're right. Smaller class sizes and teacher pay and all of that are in there, but they're in there because not because I want more money to pay for them, but because we have the education lottery. We have all of this money in education. We're one of the states that spend more on education, but yet we're 47th. So we have wasted money somewhere. So ideally what I would like to go in is go through our education system with an army of libertarians, to be honest with you, right? Because you won't get a group of, oh, you don't need that, or oh, this costing too much money, than you will to have someone who are looking things judgmental, right? Give me a reason to keep this in place, right? So we'll have people like that on the team to try to figure out what works and doesn't work, and to try to clean it up. But it is more Republican because it's a transfer from, I think, where we are now to a libertarian utopia. But I don't think we can get there without the structure.